everyone, and welcome back to the HCW podcast, and welcome back to the Indy preview show. We review. This ain't going well already. We are reviewing Kamikaze Pro Live 38, which was on Friday the 13th. Spooky. And we are joined by Alex Connors. How are you doing?
I'm all good, thank you, Rate. How are you?
Yeah, I'm living my best life. Just watching good wrestling.
Yeah, it's been an action-packed month here in the Midlands for British wrestling. So this is just one of many great shows that have been going on this month, and it's been extremely busy for both of us, and that is always good news for wrestling in general.
Yeah, and I'm turning up. That's important as well.
You're actually working hard to be busy, which is what we like to see.
This was at the Collingwood Centre. I'm getting confused with the events now. The Collingwood Centre, they had a decent show in the crowd, and a kind of a big match to go on first. We had Alex Connors versus man like DeReese. So I didn't expect this to go on first, I'll be honest.
Well, I don't make those choices. Obviously, it was the first match announced for this show.
Yeah.
Let's bring up how fantastic Kamikaze Pro Live 37 was. The show we've just done. In my opinion, one of the best shows Kamikaze's ever put on, that we've ever seen. So they had a huge show to follow. So one of the first matches they announced is the Kamikaze Pro Champ against the Kamikaze Pro Live Real Champ.
Yeah.
That is definitely a huge match. But when you have two huge matches, because we'll get to the main, another huge match, maybe you want to start hot and end hot. That's probably what they had in mind here when they decided to go for this being the opener and set the tone for the whole show and try and keep up the momentum that we left with Kamikaze Pro Live 37 right here into Kamikaze Pro Live 38.
Excellent. So the match started off, so it was a bit of chain wrestling from both of you guys. I feel like at the time you were playing a bit coy. Obviously, you weren't going fully into the like you were trying to lure man like DeReese into your kind of depths. You both went for pinning combinations, quick roll-ups, and from that. DeReese was then at that point trying to crowd pander a lot. It's like he just didn't really care. It was like he wasn't as fully invested as the match as he should have been.
Yeah, DeReese not really known for the chain and the tech.
Yeah.
He's known for being an explosive wrestler, so definitely something where I think I would have an advantage and an interesting thing to explore in the opening. And we do know that at Kamikaze Pro Live, DeReese loves to pander to the Kamikaze crowd, his home crowd, really, the home of the 0121, and he does get a bit more carried away than you might see on some other shows with that. So it looked like that might pay off for me, but obviously there were some hurdles along the way.
Yeah. So at that point, you were getting beat down a lot in the ring, and then suddenly, as usual in Kamikaze Pro, they allow the fans to attack you. Every show this happens now, and there's been at no point has this been questioned. There's been no disqualifications. No. They just allow it to happen.
No, every time I wrestle in Kamikaze, it's at least 50-on-1, if not more, which is just sometimes insurmountable odds, even for a man as talented as myself. When you're facing 50 Birmingham reprobates against just one Alex Connors, it is going to be tough. And yeah, the ref, I'm sure, under instructions from our general manager, Karl, let it slide.
Yeah, because I'd like to say if you did this, which I don't, you wouldn't do it anyway, I feel like man like DeReese would have won the match because you would have been disqualified. I feel
obviously, yeah.
You were then rolled back into the ring, but while DeReese was put the pander in a bit more, you set him up for that shotgun drop kick into the ropes, which I love that move. It just looks very nice. You were then obviously on top of DeReese at that point, trying to get the pinfall. At one point, you were both down with Superkick, both down. You started trading lariats. It started becoming like a Stan Hansen flipping old school JPW match. You hit a beautiful Michinoku driver, and then out of nowhere, RKO for the win by man like DeReese.
Yeah, absolutely out of nowhere. He ducked under another lariat attempt. You mentioned we were both going for lariats. I think the Kamikaze Pro crowd are very used to seeing these high-paced, high-flying action, but this was a much more strong-style match towards the end. And I was just caught off guard as I went for that lariat because out of the corner of my eye, I saw that you had actually arrived at the show. And, I will admit that actually does fill me with joy these days, but it was just enough for Darius to slide under the lariat and hit the cutter, the RKO for the win. For me, this is not the title I'm concerned with. This is not the belt I'm after. This is not the opponents I've prepped for. Darius is not the Pro Live champion that I should be. He's obviously the Kamikaze Pro Heavyweight champion, which is not the division I'm currently looking at. So a good opener, a strong opener, not one I'm particularly concerned with the result. It would have been great to get a win over Darius, but I've wrestled Darius before and will again, I'm sure.
Yeah, it was a good opener. I rated 2 3/4. It was a good, nice opener to the start of the show. And as you said, you're the real world champion, so this doesn't matter to you right now. Why do you need another bout at this moment in time?
Yeah.
We move on to a bit of deja vu. So we had Luke Douglas versus JC, and it was quite familiar circumstances for Luke. He's just come off a. Did he lose last? It was Kieran McQueen. He lost. Was that last year? Yes, he did.
Yeah, he lost. Well, he beat Coach Mahan, I believe, since
he
then.
He did, didn't he?
If I'm remembering correctly. And he lost to Kieran the show before that. But if we also remember, he had a small losing streak leading up to his last match with JC, which almost reversed that and got him back on track, but only briefly, as we've just discussed.
Yeah, exactly. But luckily for JC, that was his first match, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So now he was a bit more adapted to the Kamikaze in-ring style. So this match was a kind of Luke trying to be on top for a lot of it. So they pushed him to the corner. Luke, you did the good old-fashioned let go, try and make you flinch. A few grappling from both guys. Both guys then went for roll-up pins. JC then, surprisingly, for a big chunk of this match, was then out wrestling Luke. I don't know if Luke was in the right headspace or stuff, but or he was just thinking this will be a breeze again from his previous match for anyone that's seen that. So previous match, he just super kicked JC about 50 times in the face at the end of it.
Yeah, brutal.
There was slams. JC hit a beautiful drop kick. Luke then hit off cut off lariat. Douglas was on top the striking wise. Then he kind of forgot to not forgot. He just decided to move towards striking rather than the grappling side of it, because obviously JC was a bit more on top of the night. It became back and forth. JC hit a massive DDT out of nowhere. He went for the pin, didn't get it, and then Luke absolutely obliterated him with some super kicks. 4, 5 super kicks. 1, 2. Yep. Luke picked up JC, and I instantly know this is not going to go well. Why have you done this? And then there was a bit of Luke was attempting to hit a super kick. JC kept ducking. Luke kept it. I think he just wanted to hit the super kick. JC kept ducking, and then eventually Luke went for it one more time, and JC rolled him up for a quick roll up, and picked up a massive win.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely felt that the deja vu from the previous match has come back to haunt Luke here. He feels like he's going to send that same message that he sent the first time they fought. But he should have learned, obviously, as you mentioned, JC was way more on top and involved in this match. So he should have known that JC had learnt a little bit and was maybe going to counter that barrage of super kicks, which is obviously what came back to haunt him. We all know picking your opponent up can always come back to haunt you when you least expect it. It was good to see JC's evolved a better game, and we always know that Luke Douglas can pull it out, but it didn't feel like they really were on their A games here. You never really know with Luke in this current mindset. He's winning, he's losing, he's winning, he's losing. Losing matches he maybe shouldn't, winning matches that maybe we didn't think he would. Like real opposite ends of the spectrum. With JC, you felt like he still hasn't quite clicked in every aspect when he comes up against those bigger opponents. Really great match from JC at Kamikaze Pro Live 37 against Kieran McQueen, someone who I guess you would say that's more of a 50-50.
Yeah.
When JC is asked to step it up, I know he won here, but only because of mistakes from Luke Douglas. When he's asked to step it up to that next level, it's still a little sloppy from JC, which is to be expected at this level.
Yeah, I rated 2 1/4 stars. It was a fine match. Luke needs to win and then beat people down afterwards. If he's going to go a route, at least you got the win first.
Yeah, and I've got to say, if I'm we've mentioned like his surprising losses to Kieran, his win against JC coming off the back of a few surprising losses. We remember Maximus's debut being a surprising
big
loss.
one, yeah.
I think right now, this week in time, Luke Douglas is probably very focused on an upcoming tag team title defense. He's currently got 2 belts he's defending. We know he's got the big tag title match coming up against Sunset Machine. That's going to be surely the forefront of his mind, and it feels like he let this one slip away. And it's not either of their finest performances, but JC will take it. He's happy to get that roll-up win. That's good news for him.
Yep, and then after the match, obviously, as I said, Luke decided, I'm not just going to sit around in my self-pity. He just beat him down afterwards.
Yeah, but like you say, could have pinned off that super kick and done that anyway.
Yeah, so at least JC picked up the win, so it was nice for him.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's move on to stuff that won't make me sad. We had Kieran McQueen versus Sonny Nos. So this was the battle of the good guys. Both are quite favourites. Sonny Nos has become a kind of kamikaze favourite straight away.
I love Sonny Nos. I'm going to be so upfront with that. I've seen him only a couple of times, but I've seen him train at Cami for a long time. I saw another debut of his this weekend, and he has got the heart of a lion. He's got all that passion and energy when he comes through the crowd. His moveset is still in the early goings. He still needs to find his identity in the ring, but you can tell how much passion and drive there is behind Sonny Nos. It's great to see. He's a fantastic young wrestler. I'm really excited every time I see him on any card in the Midlands right now.
Yeah, he reminds me. He's got like that DDT soul. That's what he reminds me of. Like he's got like he can hit hard and he's agile, but he can throw that bit of comedy in.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's the perfect start.
Which can throw people off guard.
Yeah. And then Kieran McQueen has been on a good run of late. He is, prior to this match, it doesn't sound like a spoil, but he's never won at the Collingwood Centre, and we will discuss, did he win? We'll find out in a second.
Well, Kieran McQueen, I thought, has been on an excellent run, and I've mentioned everyone, Kamikaze Pro Life 37 last show, really stepped up their game. Kieran included, fantastic match. And his matches have gotten better and better leading up till this match, which I thought was a bit confusing from Kieran McQueen because of the face versus face dynamic. Yeah. Kieran couldn't tell whether he wanted to get that crowd back on his side or he wanted to get mean and beat Sonny Nos. It seemed very confused, a very interesting dynamic, but not one that I thought helped Kieran or the match or his game plan. Was he trying to win over the crowd or was he trying to win the match? It was quite hard to watch at times when you didn't know what he was going to go for. Was he going to G up the crowd or was he going to go for a pin? I felt like this was a real slip from Kieran McQueen after a run of really great matches from Kieran.
Yeah, it was a very odd dynamic because he was using a lot of, we wouldn't say like normal tactics. So he was playing on a hurt knee. I don't know if he actually had a hurt knee, but he kept playing on it. He hurt his knee. Sonny Nos came over. He obviously went for the roll-up because that's wrestling. Yeah. Then Sonny Nos was actually out wrestling McQueen for a lot of this. There was a lot of like the reverse body slams. Then Kieran was on top, but his knee went again. But then he was fine, and he hit a strike. Both guys were then struggling for momentum. It felt like a clunky kind of back and forth where no one could get on top. A few went for both near falls back and forth. Kieran kept trying to get the penalty kick, but he just went to the well too many times with it. Nos was getting a lot of near falls at that point. He missed another PK, Kieran, and that ended going into a backcracker, which was lovely by Sonny Nos.
Yeah, very crisp.
Stomp, he went for a stomp, Kieran McQueen, knee was hurt again. And then Sonny Nos rolled him up, and the streak continues.
He did eventually hit the PK, I think.
He did hit a PK, yeah.
So, there was a few things here for both these guys. I was a bit frustrated with Sonny, someone who I have invested time in, that he fell for this leg trick frequently.
A few times,
because it was a bit obvious. The first time, fair enough. And again, you felt from Kieran, was that cheeky comedy between two guys who trained together, or was that a dirty tactic trying to win? It was very hard to tell what Kieran's mindset was, but the fact Sonny fell for it a couple more times was awkward and frustrating if you're a Sonny Nos fan. Kieran, he really hyped up this penalty kick the whole way through. And then when he hit it, it just didn't have that climactic finisher that he wanted. It connected, but it wasn't putting Sonny Noss away the way that he built it up, which was disappointing for him. At the end, I'm very happy for Sonny Noss, who got the win. Great news. Very curious to see what's going on in Kieran's head, and hopefully next show we'll get to see a little bit more as to what he was actually thinking there. But yeah, this match definitely did have a clunky energy because of Kieran's mindset and Sonny falling for it.
Yeah.
It didn't have that two guys who respect each other, a bit of maybe the first trick from Kieran, maybe a bit of cheeky banter, but 2 or 3 more times, you really felt like, is he trying to embarrass Sonny, or is this just Kieran desperate for a win? Because, he did want to gain that momentum. He did want to keep winning. He did really need a win. So you can see why he'd go to that well. But if you're going to do that, you've really got to just sack off what you think of the fans. Instead, Kieran would hype up the fans, get them back on his side, but then just do a snapmare and a pin and get back to wrestling. So yeah, very confusing about Kieran's mindset. I'm very interested to see what we get from him at the next show.
Yeah, and then to top it all off, Kieran suddenly absolutely beat the living hell out of Sonny Noss after the match.
Yeah.
Ending with a punt, which, when someone hits a punt, they've taken a dark side in wrestling. So Kieran, he's an angry man.
What will happen? This match may have suffered for the sake of something bigger and better long term for Kieran McQueen.
Yeah.
But I'm just curious to see what will happen next time.
Yeah, look at Sam Hughes. He decided that he didn't want to play by the rules, and he went on a massive winning streak.
And even when Sam's been losing, they've been against much bigger opponents, and he's had just better and better matches. So yeah, for Sam, it really was a turnaround. But for Kieran, I'm not sure he's committed to that yet. We'll find out on the next show whether he comes out and really doesn't care about the fans anymore, or whether it was just frustration in this one bout because he needed the win, because he had that momentum. It was clunky, but hopefully for the sake of something bigger and better from Kieran. For Sonny Noss, great win. Just keep it going. He's so new. He's doing amazingly well.
Yeah, excellent. So we'll move on to some tag team action, which we don't get to see enough of in Kamikaze Pro Live. We're
going to have a triple threat later, which I don't think I've ever seen at Kamikaze Pro Live.
I think of one, but we'll get there. We've got Ronnie G and Coach Mahon, a debuting tag team from people that have just come onto the Kamikaze Pro Live roster, versus a team that's only really teamed once, and that was in Kamikaze Pro Live. Ryan Parrott and Will Stevens, so returning Ryan Parrott. So we kick off with a good old-fashioned detention. Coach Mahon gave Will Stevens and Ryan Parrott a detention. Will Stevens was mortified. Ryan literally went, "This isn't real." Will Stevens was mortified and Ryan, "It's not real." So once again, Stevens got into a place where he was getting mobbed. Will Stevens was getting out wrestled by both guys. They were working well as a tag team, which
we've talked about a few times. He's been teaming with Hasta a lot recently.
Yeah.
I don't think Hasta was at this show or able to attend, so he brings in another partner, Ryan Parrott. They have teamed before. They do have a similar style, so you'd like to think they'd be a good team. But the same opening problems for Will Stevens, which we've mentioned a few times, where he just starts very, very slow. He starts his matches very slow, and the faces always take advantage. The good guys of the opposing side always seem to be on top of him for the opening of the match, both ways. And he gets into it. But I really thought for Will, last show, he had a fantastic outing against Chantel Jordan. I think the best I've ever seen. And I hoped he would continue that momentum, but he still, as you said, started on the receiving end for the first few minutes of this match.
Yeah, he was just getting worked on. G at one point outpowered him, which I was very surprised by. Steve then started, when Mahon got brought in, Stevens decided that he was the weak link of the two. So he was working over Mahon a lot. Cutting off Mahon from his corner, which is great tag team wrestling. Continuously going for falls, which I don't see enough of with a lot of the newer guys. Wanting to go for falls straight away. Double teaming in the corner. But there was it got reversed to Mahon and Ronnie G, but there wasn't a lot of chemistry at the same time, which is obviously going to be new for a new team that have just been put together.
Yeah, they are a brand new team. So when you're talking about this cutting off one of the members, and I have to say, I think they chose the right member. Ronnie G is absolutely fantastic. He is a house of fire.
Yeah.
So if I was planning against that team, I would be cutting off Coach Mahon as well. Coach Mahon does have that power. He's got the heart, but Ronnie G is just an outstanding young talent. So when you see a lot of tag matches in these big companies and they try and cut somebody off, they often always make that tag and the other partner comes in fresh and hot. But when you've got a brand new team, you might find success cutting somebody off and just getting the win because they're not in sync. They're not as on the same page. And it did show in this match with Coach and Ronnie. And there are chances that Will Stevens and Ryan Parrott could have just put Coach away without him ever getting that tag. Because when they're not as in sync, you can really interrupt those communications and pile in on the weak link and get the win.
Yeah, exactly. And as you mentioned, so Coach eventually did get to Ronnie G, and he was a house of fire. He was like everyone was going down. They hit a beautiful heart attack, which is nice to see. The heart attack coming, and then they ended up being out on top again. They got hit by a double choke slam, which I love a good old double choke slam. Ryan Parrott or Stevens threw Mahon into a ring post. Then they hit a heart attack, so a double heart attack. You don't see one, you saw two. And then I got to say something that I never got to say in a while. Malfunction at the junction. Stevens ended up hitting Barrett. The referee was absolutely losing control at this point because it was an absolute shamble. Like, what's happening? Everything's happening. Stevens then decided to go run after a kid in the crowd, and then while this was happening, Ryan Parrott got rolled up in the ring, and they ended up losing. I rated 2.5 stars. It was good. It was fine. It was just it was just absolute chaos at the end of the match.
Yeah, the last few minutes were very chaotic. The teams, you could feel that they weren't regular teams. Obviously, Will and Ryan, it's only one showing before, so they are still a new team. And Coach and Ronnie, they were put together on the last show as the future, but they have never teamed before on a show. So it did fall apart a bit at the end from both sides and from the referee, let's be honest. It's his job to keep control. And that took away a little bit from what you might have enjoyed so far, because it was actually a really solid match until that point. Very exciting from both teams. Smart from Will and Ryan to cut off the ring and wear down Coach. Coach showed his heart. He gets the tag. House of Fire from Ronnie G, who is absolutely fantastic. So yeah, a really good match until the last few minutes where it just seemed to break down into absolute chaos. And surprisingly, actually, you'd think that would benefit Will and Ryan, but apparently it didn't. That is this one surprise, I would say, from this match. So I thought the more chaotic it got and the less structured it got, the more the two bigger and more chaotic brawlers might come away with the win.
Yeah, so it's good for Ronnie and Mahon. They pick up a win, Coach's first win in Kamikaze. And I think it's Ronnie's first win as well, thinking about it. From the people he fought, because he fought yourself, and he fought man like DeReese as well, I believe. He didn't pick up a win from both of that. And did he fight George Lydon?
He wrestled George Lydon in one of our in-house events.
Okay.
Which he also lost. So yeah, he's not. Oh, and he had an open challenge. I think he answered the open challenge against George Lydon.
That was it. Yeah,
he obviously lost that one as well. So yeah, I think for Ronnie that is definitely his first win. For Coach, only one match before this, so definitely his first win. Great news for those two. You just would like to see them get the end of the match crisper and tighter, and that's the hardest thing to do when you're a new team, because you can plan for the start of a match, but the longer it goes, the further away from the game plan you get, because your opponent has other ideas, and you have to start ad-libbing, throwing curveballs out, and that's the point where you need to be able to read your tag partner's mind, know each other as well as you know yourself, and be able to pull out those tag team moves without thinking about it. And they're not quite at that level, but the more they team, the closer they'll get.
Yeah, and then we move on to a match I was looking forward to, and then it got better. So I had, it was supposed to be Nate Riley versus good old Samu Hughes, but Sam is sadly out injured. I tweeted him during when we found the reveal, and I was going, "Where are you?" Anyway, he just showed me a picture of him in a sling, and I was like, "Oh."
Yeah.
Not
So
good.
Sam, I'm a huge fan of Samuel Hughes, especially what he's been doing lately. He's really turned, I would say, a new renaissance to his career, and he's been having fantastic matches. So I've been more than happy to, not just here, but at a few different places around the Midlands, fill in for Sam, who has had a bit of a shoulder issue and is currently in a sling and unable to wrestle. That being said, I have myself experienced many hardships at Kamikaze, thanks to our general manager, Carl Robinson. A man like Doris, for example, being my opponent, not something I needed or wanted. It did not benefit me and my path. The ring gremlin coming out and surprising me at the last show, absolutely. So I would like to go into a match where maybe I had planned and my opponent had not, and that was this match against Nate Riley. So I came out, demanded I face somebody who's actually in the Kamikaze Pro Live, my real title, that division, and show that I'm still the real Kamikaze Pro Live champion.
Yeah, and you did a nice thing. You had a second pair of gear, which is always good for everyone involved. So you versus
including the wrist tape. I got
Yeah.
coloured wrist tape, don't you worry. I had the red wrist tape with the red gear, the black wrist tape with the black gear. We went to blue against this match with Nate Riley. Whole fresh set. You've got to look the part.
Yeah.
Even fresh entrance jacket, I think.
Yeah, the jacket
Swap
was
the
nice.
whole lot.
The jacket was nice. So yourself versus Nate. For anyone that knows this match has been having rave reviews around not just this match, but you fought him a few times around the country, and it's been going pretty well. So you decided, I'm going to beat him again. So this match kicked off with Nate going straight to his well, which is just starting off real quick with a shotgun dropkick. He hit a cutter, then he hit a hidden blade, and I was worried at this point. I was going to go, oh my god! But you kicked out, which was an impressive feat, kicking out the hidden blade.
Well, had it been any later in the match, that would have been a hell of a finishing maneuver. But because it was 10 seconds in, I thankfully had the energy to kick out. But yeah, a fantastic opening combo, a salvo from Nate Riley there.
Yeah, and you were a man that just had a match earlier as well, so we got to remember that. He hit an absolutely massive dive, which you'd expect from Nate Riley, and then out no, you just cut him off the momentum kind of swings.
Yeah, I mean, let's go into those moments though, because that dive, worth mentioning, was over the referee, flip dive to his feet. That was huge from Nate Riley after a little facebuster Rana to send me out the ring. And then the cutoff. So, as you mentioned, I faced Nate Riley a lot this year, all across the country. It's been one of the hottest matches going in the Midlands and down south. Yep. That means he's prepared for a few of my offences, including the shotgun dropkick to the hanging opponent in the ropes. So he actually twisted out of it. I ended up going right through the ropes and meeting Nate Riley's boot on the other end, which was not something I've ever experienced when going through that move before. And I'm sure, hopefully, nobody else is watching and stealing that counter, because I might have to change up my offense in the future. Instead, he went for his phenomenal forearm. I managed to get out of the way. He tried to do that opening salvo again, and I managed to cut him off there with a Gomen Giri to the face and thankfully stopped the momentum.
Yeah, and then you hit the knee. You hit a version. I don't know. I just called it a Uranagi knee, which is the good old into the knee. You hit. I don't know what the move's called, so you're gonna have to. It's like a stretching bridge submission.
Yeah. So I came up with this move myself. I call it the Fire Prism, and it is a gory submission variation, but on one knee, so I can get them hooked with one knee and get them entirely bent over, and some very unfortunate people end up with the top of their head touching the bottom of their foot if I can stretch them the whole way.
Which is not fun.
Clubbing
blows at this point, and then you got caught off guard by Nate. Got you caught in the corner. I thought he was going for the cheeky Nando's kick, which is the name of that supposedly, but he went for a cheeky 619, is what I've called that.
Fantastic move from Nate there. because it completely catches everyone off guard. Everyone thought they knew what was coming.
Yeah.
And I don't think anyone's ever seen a 619 from that position. I was completely trapped. So, you've got to give Nate Riley credit for innovating.
Brutal as well, because it's the back of the head. So it's...
And there's no way to defend yourself. You can't protect yourself from that move because you're completely tied up.
And then he hit a perfect phenomenal forearm, like beautiful, like Holy Rising phenomenal forearm. Got a near fall at that point. Roundhouse 1 count at that point of that. And then you hit. Am I looking? Did like a detonation kick variant? I put it with.
Yeah, He had that fireman's carry pop up roundhouse. Detonation kick. Not something I've ever seen from Nate Riley until this very day at Kamikaze. He never hit me with that move before, so that's another move for his arsenal.
And then you just took control and ended up picking up the win with the Crown of Thorns. And Nate Riley.
Well, I think the barrage at the end came, thankfully, for a bit of intelligence on my part. I played a bit of possum after that detonation kick. I stayed down, forced him to drag me up, and really use all his energy to drag me up and go for the next move, which allowed me to counter into my final barrage and the Crown of Thorns for the win.
Yeah.
Proving that I am still the real Pro Live champion in the Pro Live division. Whatever Karl wants to put me up against, that's not going to change that fact.
Yeah, and it was a very good match. I rated 3/4 stars. I really enjoyed it.
The show was fantastic, and I'm not even merely talking about a boast for myself here, because I was in the first half of the show, so I'm not saying it to target anyone in particular, but it really picked up as it went on. The last few matches just kept up and up and up, and the second half of the show just picked up the momentum a lot stronger and really pushed us to a fantastic finish, as we're about to talk about the main event. But yeah, I think it kicked into gear in the second half.
Yeah, so very good match, my favourite match so far of the night. And then we moved on to the main event. So previously, Kamikaze Pro Live 37, we had one of the matches of the year, which was Edgar Adams versus George Lydon. So what Kamikaze decided to do was they gave Edgar a rematch due to how good that match was, and they obviously, if something's hot, you do it again. And then you throw Chantal Jordan in it.
Yeah.
Which I don't think either guy was probably a fan of.
No. I mean, Chantal and George, obviously the trilogy this year they've had for the Relentless and the Live belts back and forth, and the unification match. All of those matches have been absolutely phenomenal. George and Edgar have just had an absolutely phenomenal match. So a great idea from Kamikaze to give us all three in one match.
Yep, and then that trivia, that triple threat, it clicked into my mind. You had Man Like the Reese, MJ Grayson, and George Lydon.
Yeah.
I research.
That came about with very different circumstances, though. That was a match that was forced to happen due to a draw in a Rumble, essentially, or a disputed result, shall we say, for that Rumble. Yep. This one was just straight management's decision. So Kamikaze normally likes to keep things very similar to a Japanese promotion with these one-on-ones where you can't really steal a win. But this was just pure decision from Kamikaze. Let's get some of the people who've been having great feuds and put them all in one match. Exactly. It's a great idea.
And we might as well throw that in there. Carl Robinson screwed MJ Grayson, and that's why that match happened. Anyway,
while we're on about that, this is a fantastic match, and this is a great idea to put George's rivalry with Chantal and George's great match with Edgar into one match. But didn't I also have a rivalry with George this year that was getting rave reviews and that everybody loved? And yet I'm left out. This could have been a fatal four-way. I think Karl's screwing hasn't stopped yet.
Yeah, especially when you leave out the actual champion. That's it's not a smart move by Kamikaze.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, Edgar did not pin George for 3, and I did. So how's he still in and I'm not?
Yeah. Might as well end the show now. What a waste of time this main event was. But no, very good main event. So it kicked off with your typical, the one-upmanship, like who's going to get the lead within the triple threat. They were both then decided, I was surprised by this, they both, Chantal and Edgar, worked on Edgar. Edgar fought back at that point, but then Chantal was in control. George Lydon hit a fantastic, I call it the Booker T kick. I don't know if there's an actual technical term, but heel kick, something like that. I always know it's the Booker T kick. The moonsault on
Hook
both
kick,
of them. Hook
I would
kick.
normally refer to it as, yeah.
There was a dive onto Edgar. Then Edgar got backdropped onto the apron by Lydon. Lydon's got a bit more aggressive, which I do like. He's actually defending the title with aggression. Then they both decided to double team Lydon. Both tried to pin Lydon. Obviously, that never works well in any triple threat ever. So then they both argued. Chantal hit a code breaker, which was a near fall on Edgar. Edgar hit a brainbuster, which was a near fall on Lydon. A beautiful Tower of Doom. I love a Tower of Doom. I don't know why wrestlers decide to get involved in the Tower of Doom because it helps no one. But I always love a Tower of Doom. Chantal then went to the wheelhouse, kicking the absolute living hell out of both guys. German to both. She then hit an outer ring dive. Then Edgar hit an outer ring dive. Then Lydon hit an outer ring dive. One-upmanship via that at that point. Edgar has now perfected the Destino. I'm going to throw it. He somehow did a Destino onto his knee. I don't know if he meant it. But the guy landed on it. It looked beautiful. I don't know if he meant it to happen.
The one that he hit last show that spiked Lydon. Is he better than Naito at the Destino already? Because these two
brutality.
Have been amazing.
Yeah, like spiked Lydon last show. This one, he flipping somehow ended up trapping his knee underneath them. Oh, it looked brutal. George went for a 450. The knees were up. Then there was a stunner on Edgar. I do like a stunner in the middle of the match. Chantal hit a variant of like a dead eye that she does. I'm sure she still doesn't have a name for that move.
No, I've asked this before. In person, not a specific Chantal Jordan move name, no. So we can call it the dead eye or the jig and tonic if you prefer.
Yeah. So for Chantal, I'm going to call it the dead eye. Then Edgar hit a nice Rough Rider as well at that point. And then there was a Gotch style power driver on the apron. And then George went to his wheelhouse, hit a 450 splash, and picked up the win. And I rated this 4 stars because it was banging.
Yeah, it was fantastic. A fantastic match. You can understand some of the alliances that have formed in this match. George and Chantal go back a really long way, a lot of respect. Edgar's the unknown, so you don't really want him around because he's got that speed. He could roll you up at any point. That speed in a triple threat is a killer. It's one of the biggest weapons for a triple threat is speed. So you can see why they teamed up on him, but also you can see why they'd want to get George out of the picture because this is an opportunity to finally get that title out of the hands of George Lydon, which has been held for so long and that he's defended so strongly. And you don't have to pin him. So if you can get him out, then you can wrestle between each other. So that kind of makes sense too. Chantal was absolutely on fire in this match. Edgar continues to impress every time we see him. And George, I thought, well, you've got to have been worried for his belt in this case because this is the biggest chance where he could have lost it, and he came through strongly on the other side and continues to be one of the best wrestlers in the country. Fantastic match this was from all three.
Yeah, this might, except for obviously losing the championship at one point, this might be probably the most best title run Kamikaze have had because he's faced a who's who of people. He's fought people in triple, this is his second triple threat and he's come out dominant on top. It's just a great run. But yeah, great match. He's had 2 banging matches in a row. Credit to credit where it's due with George. And he retained his interim title. We'll go with, I don't know what to go with that. But that's it for the review. But we have already Kamikaze announced yesterday, I believe. Kamikaze Pro Live 39 at the Stetchford Social Club. I do love I love a social club, I'm going to be honest. It's just the close atmosphere.
It's got an atmosphere, does Stetchford. It's a really fun show to be a part of. So if you're there, definitely come check it out because it really is an up-close, intimate, personal atmosphere. The crowd seem to be that bit more rowdy at Stetchford than they are anywhere else. So if you're near the area, you should go watch it out live because it is totally different than when you watch it on demand. Yeah,
exactly. Tickets are now on sale. People announced for it via the poster. You've got Kieran, Ronnie G and Mahon are tagging. I'm assuming they're tagging. Edgar Adams, George Lydon, Nate Riley, and the real world champion, Alex Connors. So without further ado, obviously like and subscribe. Follow Alex. His Instagram is below. Twitter is going to be in the description. Buy the tickets for the show; they will be in the description as well. And hopefully, we might see a main event. I want to see, which is the Battle of the Champions. Will Karl book it? You coward!
Come on, Karl. Don't make us continue the KarlOut. Everyone else, we'll see you at Stetchford.
Adios. Oh yeah!